Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I am welcoming you to Authors Up, your favorite place to be, we hope, on Sunday evenings. It has certainly become ours. And my co-hosts are with me tonight, and you know who they are, but they're going to say hello on their own. Hey, Miss Ruth, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm so glad you're back. We missed you
Yes.
last week.
I'm glad to be back, too.
I know you missed us, so yes,
we
but
missed
no
you.
problem.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I miss being here.
Yeah.
And you, Victoria?
Hello. The queen is here. The queen is still here. I'm still here.
Well, I'm glad you are. I'm glad you are. We have a great show tonight. We have an interesting topic, a topic that we don't usually have here on Authors Up. And we have a wonderful author who's going to tell us not just about his book, but give us some life lessons. And it's just going to be a fun and informative program. So,
Money.
Yeah, God.
Money. Okay. Okay. All right.
we did pray before we came on the air.
Yeah, we did.
We have to. We have to.
Well, I tell you that we're gonna go ahead and get started with our usual format, minus the
musical
solo
number,
there from Queen Victoria.
Minus that.
We'll say good evening to Naikayeta, who's up there in New York. Good evening, Naikayeta. Thank you for being with us tonight. And there's Miss Leah. Hey there, Leah. Good to have you on the program with us tonight. Happy New Year to you as well. So look, this is one of those shows where at the end of it, you're going to say, boy, I wish so-and-so had listened to that with me. Well, now's your time as we're doing the weekend review. Why don't you tag somebody, share this with a friend, somebody that you may have been talking finances with, speaking to about finances, wondering about the stock market and all that. This is a show and a perfect time to get them plugged in. So you go ahead and do that, and we're going to get started. We're going to have Queen Victoria start with our weekend review.
Well,
Have at it, lady.
I tell you, the week, it was mixed with some sadness, some news of some deaths, and two people that grew up with in New York. So watched one of the funerals yesterday. I couldn't even watch the other one today. I just couldn't do it. I said I'm not going to do it. I just blanked out. But I was so grateful for the blizzard of 2025.
Yeah, sure, we'll call it that.
Let me tell you, usually I'm the first one to say, I don't want no snow. If I never saw snow again, how many times y'all heard me say that? If I never saw snow again. But let me tell you, somebody had on Facebook that they wanted it to snow. And I was like, I usually say no, but I wanted some snow this time. As long as the power came off, I was good. I really just wanted to stay home. And
but did you get snow? Because all I got was ice.
We got snow.
Oh, okay.
We did get snow, about two, maybe 2.5 inches, and then sleet and stuff. But I was looking at snow outside. Yes, yes.
We weren't.
Girls went and took some pictures outside of the snow. We did get snow, but I got bed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I got bed. And I was so happy. I was just grateful. And as we were sitting here, it came across that I have a 2-hour delay in the morning. So how much I can't get no better than that.
Yeah.
So that was my week out. It was just work and bed. I loved it.
Awesome.
You know what? I did get some packing done last night. I'm getting ready to move at the end of the month. So I started packing. So I got some of that done too. So it was not a wasteful weekend, just in the bed. So I'm happy about that.
So here's a tip for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Make sure you set aside a bag or a box for Goodwill.
Okay.
Don't take everything with you.
Okay. My children made sure there's 4 bags over there for the
Yeah,
car.
okay, well that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
already have it there,
Yeah,
you're
you
not
and
gonna
you
hesitate.
you 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 on track with this little pack rat that I had. My inner me is a pack rat. So yeah, yeah. I promised myself I'm not going to do it this time.
Okay, that's good.
That's me. That is my week in review. How about you, Annie?
Right. All right. All right. Now, for me, I think I'm next. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
My week was absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Oh,
don't get that excited. It was
I forgot to bring my blower because it was your birthday.
that's right. Happy birthday.
it, it was really an interesting week. I in uh, posted something this morning
Yes.
because this time last week I was probably just getting home from the ER. I had spent my day over at the hospital and just had to have an infusion and some other things that I was totally not expecting at the beginning of the year. But the doctors and the folks took good care of me
Good.
and sent me home. And I had gotten up in well before I got up in the morning as I was getting ready to do my 8 at 8. I heard a word, and that word was rest is required. And when I heard it, I thought, okay, this I'm shutting it down for a week, which I
Yes.
don't think I have done in
No, you had not.
forever.
Yes.
And I came off all of my programs, and which I could probably have pressed, but I'm still sounding a little bit like a frog, but not as bad as I was last week. I really couldn't get it together, so I was, trying to figure out medications and all that at the beginning of the week. But then on Thursday was my birthday. Thursday, I turned
Yes.
78 years old. I am
Oh my goodness.
anybody what my age is because I am so grateful. And I
Mhm.
just got the nicest. I spent the whole day, the entire day, just reading, reading greetings and reading messages and
Aw.
reading things that people had sent me. And it was so amazing the memories that came along with those greetings.
Yeah.
Some people were from, school. Some were from my days as a manager at IBM. So,
Oh.
I mean, it was a journey, and that's what I was saying. Just join the journey. This is life is a journey, and
Yes.
and I am just so grateful that I have wonderful people who have become a part of my journey. And I just really, I was just grateful. I just had moments of just being overwhelmed and just sitting still and just
Aw.
telling God just how thankful I am
Amen.
for people like you, Victoria, and you, Ruth, and our
Aw.
listeners. Leah said 78 looks good on you, Elder. Thank you,
Yeah.
It does indeed. You look wonderful.
Leah. Laurie, Nikayetta, people that we have met through Authors Up and those and 8 at 8 and all the other ALHB shows, and the even some of our guests
Yeah.
had reached out, and I just
Oh,
That's
how
awesome.
nice.
I mean, it made me feel good. Made me feel good, and
Yeah.
it turned out to just be a pleasant week, even when the storms came,
Yeah. Yes.
the natural and the emotional storms,
Yeah.
even when they came, even when hard decisions had to be made, even when there were disappointments, there was such a rejoicing in my heart for the journey and the life that God has given me. And
Amen.
it
Amen.
just made me feel good. So last week, regardless of, instead of, in spite of,
Right
because
up.
of, it was a great week for me.
Come on now.
Great. Yeah, yeah, it was a good one.
A happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No bubbles this year. No
No
bubbles.
bubbles. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Growth, what about you, lady?
So let's see. Well, you know what? I'm in getting ready for grandma mode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
No,
uh
you are in grandma mode. You just
that
been
that, that is true.
Not
That is
you ready. He's
yeah.
ready. We ready
Well,
too.
so I don't actually have the days counted down quite yet, but we got a baby shower in between. So I started planning that because again, my daughter is just tired and she don't want to travel, and I don't blame her. So
Right.
now we're trying to find a venue in
Yeah.
Maryland and all of that. So I'm very grateful for that she's got a mother-in-law who is very like-minded. So she and I get along very well. I would call her my friend.
Yay.
So that's very good. Um, I wanted to share an article with you guys because Victoria, you had asked, what are our goals for this year, and I said, nah, I don't have any.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Part of that is that I didn't want any because I thought,
Okay.
I'm good with what I was doing, so I'll just continue doing that. But a friend of mine sent me an article called it's called Premortem, and it's the most productive thing you'll do all year. And it centers on Ron, I think his name's Shaik, and
Mm-hmm.
he was a CEO for Panera Bread and Kava and businesses like that. And what he does is he looks back from his deathbed and makes his goals for the year.
Oh.
So he calls it premortem. And
Oh.
he basically asks himself, what am I going to do to ensure that when I reach the ultimate destination, I've done what I needed to do?
I get it.
Yeah, and I thought, actually, I could do that. And the author asked him, when you started this back in 2012, what did it look like basically? And he showed him his journal. It started off with 1,500 to 7,500 days left. And that like just blew my mind because I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have as much time as I thought I did.
Right. Right.
When you start doing the math. So I haven't gotten that granular with it, but I thought, you know what? Instead of making resolutions, which I stopped doing years ago,
Right.
instead of making new goals and coming up with the one word, again, that is my opinion. I don't feel like I need to do that. But if there are things I want to accomplish,
Yes.
what do I need to do now?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good article, and I'll send it to you guys.
Thank you, man. We could do a whole show on that one.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. So I've spent kind of my week thinking about that because it's just like, I turned 50 recently. I I want to at least make it 78 and look as good as you, Andrea.
Okay.
But those years are coming up and they're coming up quick. So if I'm gonna accomplish what I want to accomplish, I'll start now.
All right. Good.
So
I'm glad I got you to think it.
yeah, but until then, we got tonight to focus on.
Yes, and he is patiently waiting in the wings. So we're going to let you guys wait no further. Let me read a little bit about him. Mick Heyman is the author of Mellow Your Money: How to Surf the Market and Build Wealth Without Stressing Yourself Out. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. And he is the founder of Heyman Investment Counseling. With a distinguished 40-year career in wealth management, Mick has built a reputation for helping individuals and institutions grow and preserve their wealth through a stress free approach to investing. Mick holds a bachelor's degree in economics from Northwestern University and is a chartered financial analyst, CFA. Although his formal education is in economics, Mick's passion for philosophy and psychology has greatly influenced his understanding of market dynamics, emphasizing the role of human emotion in financial decision making. His work highlights the importance of a balanced approach to wealth, viewing financial health as integral to overall well being. Residing in San Diego, Mick enjoys an active lifestyle, engaging in tennis, golf, surfing, and practicing meditation, yoga, and we gone. We'll ask you to pronounce that one. I think it's we gone. He also has a deep appreciation for mystery novels and Russian literature. And after this short break, we will welcome Mick to the stage and we'll be back to talk about his book. Hang on a sec.
Welcome,
Welcome,
Mick.
welcome.
Thank you. Great to see you all, and happy belated birthday, Andrea. It's
Thank you.
exciting times.
Well, we are glad that you're able to make it and to join us here tonight, Nick.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and talk with
Awesome.
y'all.
Awesome. So tell us about your book, Mellow Your Money.
So I wrote it started writing it about 4 or 5 years ago. It took a year or two to write it and a year or two to figure out how to publish it. But what I was thinking is there's so many textbooks on money, and I don't learn with textbooks. That was never a good thing for me growing up or later in life. I learned through stories and I learned through experiences. And so I wanted to write a book that kind of talked about money and investing that way through my own oftentimes misadventures and lessons I learned through my journey in life. And oftentimes they were stories in my life that taught me about the market, and there were misadventures in the stock market that taught me about my life. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully it's a fun read, hopefully a few laughs along the way. And so for people who are not into the actual money aspects of money and would rather learn through experiences, this is that book that hopefully addresses it that way.
Awesome. All right. So obviously, if we're talking about your experiences, this is a book, almost a lifetime in the making. What made you decide to begin to write it when you did?
I think part of it was the where I am in life. And I have a small investment management company, but what I see, whether it's with my kids or their friends or other people I know, there's so little information for people about how to invest or how to think about investing. And then the other thing is there's so much what I would call, but useless information. All this noise out there, whether it's social media or whether it's the news headlines, it's all almost made to distract us from the basics of what you need to invest. And it gets our emotions fired up. And emotions are actually what drives the market. And in the book, I say it's not about ignoring your emotions, but about interpreting them. And I just never saw anything out there that really helped people interpret that way or look at how to invest for the long term. So much is worried about every little thing that pops up, every other week about what to worry about, whether it's in the government or whether it's in the markets. And all that it can distract us from what we're really about in investing for the long term. So it's really about trying to help people invest, for their later years and also do it in such a way that takes the stress out of it. So many people see the market as a stressful place. And when you do that, you run away from it. You don't want to pay attention to it at all. And to
Right.
me, part of a balanced life is dealing with everything, dealing with spirituality, dealing with, your family. And at least if you've dealt with the money part, then that part isn't going to come back and haunt you.
Well said. Well said. So, how did you decide on the lessons and the stories and the correlation between all of that?
It was kind of a half memoir type of thing. So I looked back and I said, what was the first thing I learned? And there was an amazingly eccentric lady that was my first client who had many crazy things that she would tell me. But her goal, she had enough money, thankfully, from her family, that her only goal was to give money away. So income was all she cared about. She didn't care about markets going up or markets going down. And so she had a lot of stocks from her family that she had, they had owned for many, many years. And so if income was the only thing she cared about and not about the ups and downs, we didn't have to sell anything. And so we nicknamed this the strategy of benign neglect. Of course, we weren't neglecting Eloise. She was an amazing person, but we were not doing much in her portfolio. Well, at the end of the year, when you looked at who did the best, the people that we were buying and selling and doing all this trading, or Eloise,
Really?
guess who outperformed everybody? Eloise.
Wow.
By doing nothing, by oftentimes sitting, you actually do better than all these people who are in their Robinhood accounts and doing all this trading. And you hear about all these Wall Street guys doing this and that. You can sit there and actually oftentimes do better than all those people.
Wow.
Wow. That is awesome. And I will say, I still remember we had a civics class in high school, one of the high schools that I went to, and I did learn about the stock market. I remembered that I liked it, but I didn't go no further than that. So it was, math, all of that, and that was not my area of expertise. But, reading, for me, I don't, like you, I'm not good with textbooks. I do like reading, but it has to be more palatable. So don't tell me about the stocks. Don't tell me I need to do this or do that.
Right.
Give me stories, and I feel like your book did exactly that. So it made it more, oh, okay, I understand it now. So when you say that the market is driven by emotions, that makes sense, especially when you look back and you go, oh, okay, something happened and now the market is affected by it. So, for me, your book, your book gave me that much clarity, as I was reading it. So I truly enjoyed your stories. I loved Eloise, by the way. She was great.
Yeah.
And, even, the stories about your dad and all the other, the two doctors and all of that, I feel like they just humanize what I think a lot of people are scared of when they think about the market.
Right.
So let me ask, but your book was not intended to be a guide or a,
Right.
Get rich quick, any of that.
For sure.
I thought it was. I was ready. I was like, yeah, let's go.
No, it's more about the long game is really the way to do it. And, even to go back to the title, when we moved, I grew up in Ohio, and surfing was not the most popular sport in Dayton, Ohio. But when we moved out to San Diego, my boys took to the water like magnets. And so I thought, well, I've got to learn how to surf. And of course, you get the board and you're out in the ocean, and immediately you're looking down at the water and you're just in the drink time after time after time. And finally, somebody said, look to the shore. If you look down, that's where you're going to go. Well, that analogy brought me back to the market. Because again, if you're looking at all the people calling for a recession or calling for this, or, oh my God, if this person gets elected, or if that person gets elected, oh my God, the end of the world is coming, you're going to panic every time. But if you look for the long term, then it can calm you down. And so that really helped me. And those were the type of stories that would pop in my head is, oh, what did that teach me? And so often, we want to run away from the uncomfortable people in our lives and and the events that really give us struggles and challenges. But I think if you look at those as teachers, that's what's going to help teach us. That's the other thing I really wanted to pass along in my book, and so that we all can learn from our stories.
That's awesome. Now, you included extras in your book, including movies that back up your point, whatever point you were making. So what made you decide to do that?
I think it was, I was working with an editor, and she was hilarious. She's actually from New York. I've never met, it was always over Zoom and phone calls. But as we were talking about each story, we would be, just brainstorming. And you'd say, well, this reminds me of this movie. And I said, well, that actually reminds me of another movie. And so we wanted to add both quotes, that went back, sometimes hundreds of years, and also the movies that would kind of just make it more of a fun read. And so for me, it was fun to look back. It was fun to look back at my life and see, what were the difference makers oftentimes. And some of those quotes, that they're one of the best investment books I read was written over 100 years ago by a guy named Jesse Livermore. And if you Google great quotes in the stock market, you'll see it peppered throughout. And he wrote that book based on his stories. Wow. And so nice. I don't know if 100 years ago from now, no one will be reading this book, but I tried to model it out because I have not yet found a book that had the stories like he had. And that's the amazing thing. We think, how much has changed in 100 years? Gosh, how much has changed in 10 years? Right. But emotions haven't changed in thousands of years. And that's why those things can still be appropriate today.
Yeah, no, human nature, we pretty much spot on whatever generation we live. So, all right. So what, was it a stretch for you to write this book? From investment and all of that, from what you were doing before?
It was a totally different experience. But what I reminded myself of, if someone had asked me when I was 10 years old, what do you want to be? I would have said, I want to be a scholar and an author. Well, I don't know if I ever got smart enough to be a scholar, but I thought I could get 1 out of 2 right. And so I love to write. I like to be, when I was in high school, I would write these funny little articles. Our sports teams were horrible. And so you may as well have some fun writing about the soccer team or whatever it was. And a lot of times it was I was on the team, so I could poke fun at myself. I even have a story about my basketball career in there that was a great misadventure, but it was a game where we were down, I think 94-24 or something like that, and our coach is furious because they've got their starters and they want to get to 100. And in the end, we decided to stall and try to keep them under 100. And the final score was 99-28. And we charged off the court like we had won the Super Bowl. And they're throwing stuff at us. And it was that was a relative victory. And how often, in life that we should settle for relative victories, that we don't always have to go for the gold. Anyway, those are the type of things that kind of got me excited about writing again.
That's awesome. And I will say that was one of my favorite stories because you made an excellent point. It's not always about, bottom of the ninth or whatever, that you're going home with the trophy. Sometimes it is just make a new goal. You reach the goal, you won. Right. So that was great.
Exactly.
99-28, huh?
That at the end of the year, the basketball coach said, we had a lot of good games. We won about half of them, but you're going to always remember this one. And he was right. I don't remember any other game I played in. Maybe I made a basket in one. I don't remember. But that was the game I remembered.
All right. Andrea, what you got?
Well, I'm laughing, but one thing that brought to mind was I was working with somebody and they were talking about knowing your currency. And that's what the basketball game reminded me of. All of us have different things that are important to us. and it's not always the money. It's not always that. It's not always winning. It is about the perspective and the way in which you look at things, and the fulfillment that you get out of those things that you decide to focus on. Miss Eloise was my favorite character. I mean, when you started talking about her, I thought, I love this woman. Just her outlook on things, and the amount of money that she would decide to bless the different
It was never an even amount. That was so hilarious.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. I wanted to ask you about a couple of things. I want to ask you about, and if we have time, I want you to talk about. I call him the maybe man. It's the Chinese gentleman that you talked about. That when people would ask him a question, it was never a yes or no answer for him. It was maybe. And I want you, if we have time, I want you to talk about that. But for people who are afraid of the market or don't understand the market or have been, I know that I have attended different classes about stocks and all of that, and always came away just thinking, no, never mind. It was just overwhelming. But with your book and the way that you've written it, what are a couple of things that you think are the most important for somebody who, just really doesn't have a clue how to navigate all of this? What
So I think there's a couple of things that come to mind, and one is from one of my clients who used to say this to all of his grandkids, and he'd always say, "Pay yourself first." So in other words, when you're thinking of course you've got to pay the rent and you've got utilities, but at that point, put some money away. Get used to saving some money. Because if you don't do it in the first part of the month, you're not going to have any money left at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true almost no matter what you're making. I've seen people with a lot of money who squander it all because they just spend it all. But if you think about trying to pay yourself first, and then of course, the first thing that you do, I wouldn't say buy stocks. Have some money put away in an emergency fund. And so this isn't the get rich quick method. This is about, long-term, what's best for you. So you don't have to pay that much attention over the long term. But once you have that emergency fund, go slow, invest a little bit every month. And so if you do it that way, you don't care if the market goes up or down. You think of it this way. If you're putting a little bit every month in the market, if the market goes up one month, you're saying, oh, good. I'm glad I made a little money that month. Mm-hmm. If it goes down that month, you say, oh, good. I get to put it in at a lower price. And so in a way, that gets back to that Chinese story that we have in the book, that you don't know what's good or bad in life. In this case, the guy, I think he had his horses stolen at some point, and they went, oh, no, that's too terrible. Well, the next day, or I guess before that happened, his son fell off a horse, and oh, that's terrible. And then they came through and were enlisting everybody in the army, but they didn't enlist the son because, of course, he had broken his leg. Right. So we never know what's good or what's bad. And so in a way, back up from all our judginess. And so, but that's, when you look at investing, going slow really can help. And then I think when you do find things get out of balance, don't be afraid to put them back in balance. Well, and that gets to another last point I would say is find out what your risk tolerance is. Okay. Everybody's unique in that way. Some people, if they have, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000 or more than that, how much could the market go down that would not scare you into selling? Sometimes that's 50%. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes it's less. But if you never get invested over your sleeping level, then you're not going to be afraid when it goes down. And so that's something each of us should pay attention to. And the only way to do that is figure out, if the market went down 30 or 40%, what would I do? How would I feel if I had 10,000 and now it's 7,000, if it's all in stocks? Well, if it's half in stocks, you only lost half of that.
Okay.
And so there are ways to figure out what your risk tolerance is. And so then don't get out of balance. If the market goes way up and you were 50% in stocks, but now you're 70%, move back to your 50%. Be more of a mechanic. Now, when you do that, believe me, all the news will be good. But people will be out there saying, oh, the market's doing great. Don't worry about selling. In fact, you should be buying. All the good news happens when the market is up. That's the time we should be rebalancing. Same thing on the downside. When the market goes down, it's never on good headlines. It's always on headlines that scare you.
Right.
But if you've gotten within your unique risk threshold, then you're more comfortable saying, well, I'm 50%. Well, the market's down. I'm 40 or 45%. I can buy a little bit. And so using and that's going to happen when you're scared, by the way. And so using that scare emotion, saying, this isn't telling me to sell. This is actually telling me that I can do something productive. And so in a way, you're going against the older traders that are getting all excited in Wall Street. And it's a way to, people say, well, you can't out trade Wall Street. And I would say that's true. You can't. But if you've got the long-term focus, you're looking for the shore, then you can actually use all this volatility to your advantage.
You're going to, we had asked you to pick out something to read to us from your book, Mick. But before you do that, I want you to, if you would, explain to us a little bit about anxious money. Because you have something in the book where you say never play with anxious money. And I know people say that when people gamble that you can't be afraid.
I've been sitting at that blackjack table when I thought, I didn't mean to have this much out there, and believe me, it's not that much anymore, because the next hand I lose and it's all gone, and the same thing goes in the market. If you all of a sudden have more money than would make you comfortable, what happens when the market goes down is you start reading those headlines. And you start rationalizing, well, if this happens and that happens, and it goes down another 20%, I don't think I can stand it. And so then you do the opposite. Then you start selling at the low point, and then the market goes up, and you're in this like emotional roller coaster that's going the wrong way. Then it goes back up, and you go, well, now it's okay. How often have I heard people saying, well, the market's down, I don't think I should invest now. I'm going to wait till things settle out. Well, when it settles out, that means it's up a lot. Right. And the other thing is, people try to connect all the time events to the market. Imagine in 2020, if someone gave you the end of the year headline at the beginning of the year, some psychic said, there's going to be a pandemic, and there's going to be a shutdown, and the whole economy is closing down, and you have a chance to sell all your stocks. Well, you would do that. Well, the market was up 15% in 2020, and who would have predicted that? Not me, of course. But right. if you don't have anxious money, then you just kind of hang in there, and you don't make the moves that will cause you duress, and get you out of sync with the market.
Okay, sounds good. Now you have something, you had picked something
sure.
To share with us.
So this is from chapter 4 of the book, and it's from the chapter that's titled "The Man Who Did Everything Wrong and the Man Who Did Everything Right." And it begins with, war, who wrote down war? And the speaker looked around the room, implying some idiot wrote down war. I was the idiot in question. I slunk down in my seat. I was attending an economist luncheon, and though I was no great fan of economists, I found every bit of information potentially valuable, and it was usually fun to gather with other advisors, especially when someone else agrees to pick up the tab. So I went thinking to have a nice lunch, expand my knowledge without making a fool of myself. I had apparently failed on that score. Fred was a celebrated economist visiting Louisville to share his views on the future of the economy and the market. He had passed around note cards and asked each of us to write down where we thought interest rates and other market signposts might end up by the end of the year. He also asked us to write down what we thought might be the biggest surprise of the year. On my note card, I wrote war, and for some reason, that really tickled the expert. War? Boy, that's a new one, Fred chortled from his seat. I ask this question everywhere I go, and believe me, that's a lot of places, and nobody has ever come up with war. Boy, that is rich. And then he paused. The silence seemed to go on for minutes, everyone looking around, and it became obvious he wasn't giving up until he found me. So I raised my hand. About 20 faces turned immediately toward me, half in astonishment, half relieved that the idiot was me and not them. Were you joking? Fred asked me. How do you imagine a war happening in America this year? Maybe you were envisioning something abroad, like Chile or Argentina. Everyone stared, waiting for my answer. I couldn't take the easy road out. I couldn't have located Argentina or Chile on a map if you paid me. Thankfully, after my own excruciatingly long pause, the simple answer came to me. Well, Fred, you asked for a surprise, didn't you? I flashed him my sincerest smile. I have no idea why we would end up in a war. That's why it would be a surprise. Well, mercifully, Fred moved on. He'd had his fun with me and I was forgotten. I'm pretty sure, though, that many in that room will have thought back to that awkward moment when 3 months later in September of that very year, the planes hit the World Trade Center and America went to war. Here's the thing I've learned about surprises. They come as a surprise, and they are an unavoidable part of the market and, of course, our lives. As I tried to explain to Fred all those years ago, surprises emerge improbably out of the blue and make us all look like idiots. But if we're prepared, we can grow from them in ways that predictions can never offer, because we have to pivot in the moment, and in doing so, we learn firsthand how well we've prepared for the impossible. I had predicted the unpredictable war that came upon us in 2001, but did I act on this possibility? Did I warn my family, sell my stocks? No. My prediction was just a fun and somewhat embarrassing story about how stupid I looked at an economist luncheon until the impossible happened on that horrible day.
Right.
And then I have a quote here, inspiring words you can take to the bank, the folly of forecasts. My life has been filled with terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened. Michel de Montaigne.
Most of which never happened. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you.
Get the
thank
book.
you all.
Get the book, everybody. That's my takeaway for tonight. Get the book. Oh my goodness. The book is full of stories like this. It is definitely news you could use. The title was making me think I was going to write down word for word, but I was pleasantly surprised to know that it made me think about money in a different way and not to be scared of it. And I didn't have a class like you, Ruth. They didn't teach us stocks in school. I didn't learn that. But I'm learning much more than I, now. And I think it's wonderful. Get the book, guys. Just everybody. I think everybody needs this in their library for real. It was a beautiful book. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's been so fun talking to you all too.
Well, we know that we can find out more about your approach to investing at mellowyourmoney.com. Mellowyourmoney.com. How can our listeners and our viewers get in touch with you if they have any questions or just want to reach out to you?
And by the way, I would love to communicate to anybody who likes to chat about things, and I've got time in my day to do it, and I really enjoy it. So
Good.
Mick@mellowyourmoney.com is my email.
Okay.
And please don't be afraid to communicate. And of course, the book and everything is available on Amazon. And also an audiobook if you haven't got tired of my voice. It's that was a fun
No, not at all.
that was
Not at all.
that was a really fun experience to try to read the thing. So
Good for you. Good for
Well
you.
done. Well done. Well done. Boy, I tell you, the time goes by so fast, so much faster.
It does.
Victoria, did you have any other questions for Mick or anything else that you wanted to ask?
I just like some of the quotes. I had 3 quotes that I liked, but I'm okay. But the one I really liked was on page 33. Living is meant to be fun, and some degree of risk enhances life. I like that. I love that. And
helps with the balance.
it does. And on page 5, as I was reading, I wrote it down. Money is just an expression of us, what we value. And I was like, wow, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I just, and again, the book is full of quotes, and I love the movies. Some of the movies I have seen, and some of them I'm now going to go back and watch. So it's so much more to this book than we can even tell you about because we're out of time. But it's really a good book, and y'all, we really recommend that you get this book. Really will help your thought processes about money and how you could invest without feeling scared. I like that.
Yeah. Not scared.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful, Mick. And I appreciate you in inviting us to have further conversation with you because as you can tell, we love to talk.
You do, but I enjoy. This has been a fantastic experience, and anytime I would love to follow up with you all.
Great.
Well, do you have any another book coming? Are you gonna stop at this one, or what do you have in the works?
You know, right now I'm really enjoying these podcasts, and so I've been kind of focused on that. And I talked to my son, who's in the business a little bit, and thought we ought to try one of these podcasts. And I'm going to model it after you all, though. I think I would have to do something fun like that. And then the other thing I thought is the whole mellow concept. Maybe I could apply it to mellow your politics or mellow your dating life. Or I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there.
Oh, you know what? Now would be the time to do it.
We hear it. It's now in the atmosphere. Okay, we heard it. We're catching it.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Well, Mick, once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for following what led you to write the book and to write it this way. I think that anybody who gets it will not only benefit from it, but enjoy it. Enjoy the read and enjoy the stories and the way that you've done them. So thank you so much for making time for us this evening. And is there any one thing that you would like to leave with our listeners and viewers tonight?
I think of all the different things it doesn't necessarily always have to do with the market. It's that point about using our experiences and the people in our lives. Some are our beautiful family and loved ones, and some are the most uncomfortable people around. But to use them as teachers, to think of our lives as chances to grow and just improve. And my dad is 93 years old, and he's still growing and he's still learning. And I don't think it ever has to stop. And if we can look at our lives like that, it both makes us happier people and I think more meaningful. So that's probably how I would like to leave it.
That's great. That is great. And Ruth, I know you always have something final for some final words, closing words. I won't say final words, but closing words for us.
I'm gonna write this down and email you guys so that you guys can be
Please do.
wonderful too.
No.
When you're out, we could do
Well,
it.
I was gonna say, I got some time off coming, so
We
somebody
all
gonna have to
have
pick
our
up my
lane,
slack.
and this is your lane, and you travel it beautifully. So
Wait, hang on. Let me record her saying it right now.
Oh, okay. See. All right. So, Mick, thank you so much. Speaking to
Thank
our
you, Ruth.
audience, of course. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just search for Authors Up or Authors Up Show, and you will find us. So, follow, like, subscribe, whatever you do, join us. You can also catch a replay of this show on Facebook at Saturday night at 7 p.m. If you're not on Facebook, the show will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and our podcast midweek. So take us with you wherever you go. Email us at authorsup@gmail.com with questions, or if you're interested in becoming a guest on our show. So we'd love to hear from you.
All right.
well done, Miss Ruth. Well done.
Thank you.
And we thank all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of our listening audience and our viewers. We always hopefully have something for you that will uplift and encourage and sometimes just be pure fun. We need to have life on the lighter side sometimes. But I appreciate you all being here. We all do. And come on back. Join us next week. We're here every Sunday night at 7 p.m. And we always say that you never, ever know what's going to happen on Authors Up. So be sure to come back. We couldn't even tell you about it if we tried. So come on back and enjoy it with us. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we will see you next Sunday night at 7 p.m. for another edition of Authors Up. Good night, everybody. Thanks
Good night.
a lot.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you all too.